the Fulham performance, first of all. They beat Forest 2-0. They both came up from the Championship together, but on this performance, you kind of wouldn't know, would you? And I think for the last few weeks, last few months even, the level of consistency from Fulham has been just super impressive, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, in the manner of the performance, that they were probably a little bit unfortunate to only be winning 1-0 at a time. But if you've got to, we speak about teams that have recruited really smartly over the last few weeks. We mentioned we've probably not touched upon Fulham and how successful they have been in a lot of the players that they've brought in. It just seems like everybody's contributed. And an interesting stat that I saw earlier is that 12 of their players have scored at least one goal this season. No other team has had more scorers than Fulham, which actually blew my mind just to see that and know that. But obviously, you look at some of the players. Willian coming back into the Premier League. Who saw that coming?
Well, I doubted it, but he's been brilliant.
He hasn't. Let's speak about his goal.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, he could have had another screamer as well, couldn't he? Hit the bar with one, but his actual goal, the technique, switch feet, got it right in the corner as well. I mean, that's vintage Willian, really, isn't it? Let alone the age he's at.
It was a flashback to his Chelsea days, wasn't it? How many times did he score those sort of goals for Chelsea? And that it couldn't have possibly been any more in the top corner, couldn't it? That finish. But I think there's a lot of players you can talk about, and I think one thing that for me that stands out as well, especially last time Fulham were in the Premier League, is their defence was, kind of at fault for a lot of their losses. They just couldn't control games. But you look at kind of the spine of their team now. Obviously, you've got Mitrovic in there, and obviously Paulinho, for Pereira, who both have actually proved to be a really good midfield duo. You just look at them now; they look formidable, and they look like a real solid Premier League team. And that's probably something that probably has surprised a lot of people this year, I find.
Yeah, I think so. And like you say, the signings they've made have not been panic buys. They've not been gambles. They've been players that actually suit the way Marco Silva likes to play. And they came up from the Championship playing good football. And I think when they started signing players in volume, I think we all kind of said, it's Fulham Mark II. They'll be yo-yoing back down to the Championship again. But no, the way they play is suited really well to the Premier League, and they've been a really difficult team to play against. And another shout-out deserved is, I think, Bernd Leno as well, I think, as an acquisition to sign what was formerly Arsenal's number one goalkeeper for a promoted team just shows you how attractive the Premier League is, first of all, but also the kind of project that Fulham was selling. I think Marco Silva is one of those managers that's got a bad rap from, the way he's been perceived from previous jobs, especially the way he left Everton as well. I think he's rebuilding his reputation as an enterprising young manager now quite considerably, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I think one thing that stood out for me as well, how consistent they have been, and a stat that highlights this, is they've only lost one of 15 Premier League games, apparently, this season against teams outside the top five.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's crazy, really. And then you actually look at the games that obviously, when they have faced some of the top six, they've actually put in, a really solid performance, been very competitive, been hard to beat.
Yeah.
So you've got to give them a lot of credit. The manager, especially, we knew Marco Silva was a talented manager, had a lot of promise. Probably didn't quite have the opportunity to do that in his previous, obviously, positions in previous clubs. And I'm just glad that he's been given this opportunity, and they've done brilliantly so far this season. And hopefully, they can continue, because I really like Fulham as a club, and they're not really. You don't really want those sort of clubs to kind of be yo-yoing, back and forth from the Championship to the Premier League. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, beating Nottingham Forest, I mean, that was the fixture really that could have been a relegation 6-pointer as well, couldn't it, at the start of the season? But I mean, even Forest have taken us by surprise. The promoted teams are looking stronger. Obviously, Forest have had a much bigger challenge with signing players and the volume of players they've had to sign to kind of be up to Premier League level. But I think even so, Fulham have had to sign the right calibre of players and learn from lessons from the past. They've signed some absolute duds before, but I just think the players they've signed this time around, and you said acquisition of players has been the key really for them, alongside a manager that's got the right ideas and sets them up the right way. But I mean, what's the limit for Fulham now? Do they look up the table or down the table at the teams chasing them? I mean, how high can they go?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you look at the sort of teams that are around that sort of position in the table. With how much praise have we given Brighton over the last few months, and Brentford? If arguably Fulham are doing better than both of those teams, and they've kind of gone under the radar, I feel, a little bit. So, I mean, if they could finish top half, it really does depend on some of the other teams as well. Obviously, you look at the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool, we're still kind of waiting to see whether they're going to make a late surge and they're actually kind of going to recover from this big slump that they're having. But there's no reason why they obviously can't kind of aim for that sort of, between 6th and 8th, 6th and 10th is more than up for grabs, and that would be, a huge success at the start of the season. You can imagine they would have been looking for, for safety, and you can't see them dropping below where they are now, just with the way they're playing and how consistent they have been. So it's you can't imagine that they'll drop off massively.